But like sometimes people seek to control so much about their lives. But I think sometimes it's you kind of have to back off a little bit. You kind of have to accept that you are a human, and maybe you're not perfectly in control and perfectly rational, and maybe your perfect plan doesn't pan out, and that's fine.
Mm. Yeah, you're not a machine. Yeah, actually, that was the hidden message of Krish's talk last week.
Mm.
Was actually just, and he didn't say it this way. He only told me during the week. And as I was planning my my next couple of months, he was like, dude, you need to set the bar low. You need to set the bar way, way, way lower. So you're thinking of it like, yeah, of course I can do that. Like, are you crazy? How can I not achieve that? The bar is so low. And then you get over that, and then you feel a sense of accomplishment, and then what you get to what Krishna calls the bonus round, where everything is like a bonus. You've already completed the main mission. The rest of it is just, extra.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I would agree with that, to be honest. Like we said, I think it's like I feel like it's kind of our fault, not our fault, but like if we're not, I mean, I guess my point is, I don't think we should blame ourselves too much about it as well, because I feel that that's probably an expectation that we kind of been socialized with when we look at like you look online and you think about like the stereotypical, for example, stereotypical entrepreneur. It's like extremely hungry, works extremely hard, 24/7, always on. But like people suck, man. Like people are like, it's legitimately just like, this is what I've learned recently. Someone told me this. That's like, you just like, Ian, you have to realize, to be honest, people just suck. Like, and not like in a bad way, right? It's just that they're just human. Like, some of them are legit, and also like, like you can't. Yeah, and there's something to be said about that. That it's not about. Yeah, I think there's a strength to accepting that people do suck and there are constraints and that you are human. That goes back to the Krishna thing. Like, don't set your expectations so high, right? Because you're not a superhuman. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Because we were talking, Shasha and I were talking about this just yesterday. So
we did an interesting exercise at the design school where one of the lecturers, Zach, got all the students to make a grid of 24 squares, 8x3 grid. And he just told them, okay, every block is an hour and the 24 pieces is a day, right? You fill in all the boxes, fill in how much you sleep, or you'd like to sleep, right? People put in like, anywhere between 7 to 9 boxes, right? And that's like a third of it gone. It like visually, right? And then you look at how much time you take out all the automatic stuff like eating, traveling, getting from place to place, dressing, getting ready, all that stuff, going shopping. And you realize that you actually don't have that much time. Like most of your day is, you only really have, I think most people really have like maybe 6 to 8 hours where they can really kind of make something happen.
Yeah.
And first of all, just seeing that visually was quite an interesting experience for students. I think myself included, I've never done that exercise before. But the next part of, okay, how would you structure your day, like in that framework, I found quite challenging, because the tendency is to fill it out and try to get maximum efficiency out of those boxes, right? Okay, I have 6 boxes to work with here. I'm going to do, design work for 4 hours. I'm going to do, but actually in reality, when you try to play that out, over 2 weeks and you see how well you do, honestly, I think you're right. I think people set way too high expectations of themselves most of the time. Or at least think that I think I can do that maximum output timeline, and I failed several times already. And now I'm like, actually, I'll be happy if I'm productive for 2 solid hours.
Yeah, I track my time. I've been trying to track my time more aggressively since everyone's doing remote work, because you're not going to work anymore and staying at work, and so you know how much time you've been there, but more like maybe you're doing something else, you go for a walk, you have to go get groceries. So yeah, when I first and it's not like I just hit a timer and then I just let it run, but it's more like I track. It's one of those pieces of software that you track the application usage, and I guess in my case, I'm lucky that everything I do is online or digital, so it tracks all my application usage, and then it categorizes them and logs the time. Like, it's interesting because like there was a period where I was only working about 3 or 4 hours, sometimes 4, like maybe 5 hours max a day, like actually working. A big chunk of that is actually even just communication, just like on Slack talking to people. So potentially even less than that. But some of those days were like extremely productive because, and I think this is why I keep telling everyone, like when they ask me like how is remote work, I say, oh, it's great. I feel twice as productive and I save so much time, right? And I think that goes to what you're saying, right? Like quality over quantity maybe is maybe something that we need to strive for more. Also, how has your lectures been actually? Like,
wait, but I'll get to that. But before you forget, what's the program that you've been using?
The app I use is called Timely. Let me find it's really hard to find because there are 2 apps that have the same name, I think. So it's quite good. So if you actually go to memory.ai, that's the it's a kind of a startup.
Your co-host, you can share screens.
Okay. Yeah. So this is the company. So the app is called Timely. I was using this because they had a free trial. I actually stopped using this recently and I switched back to Toggle. But that's more rudimentary. But I like Timely because it's not perfect, but it does have a little bit of smarts. So when you track your application usage, you will see it visualized on the timeline. So if I can log in and show you actually. Where's the login? Oh wait. Don't steal my password, Hans.
It's applesauce 15.
Yes. So I haven't used it recently, but you can see, what's interesting is that it automatically, so this is an example of like what my day would be. So like basically what happens is that it tracks your time and it'll kind of make drafts, what they call drafts. You can see here, so what happens is that you track your application usage, and at the beginning it's pretty basic. You just code. It'll say like, oh, here's a block of time when you're using Slack or whatever, and then and then you can tag projects or put them in buckets essentially to say, oh yeah, this is in my case I have an organization and planning bucket. There's one where it's for Zoom meetings, for example. And so you kind of put them as you organize them over time. The application starts to be a little bit smarter. So instead of having to do it manually, it will kind of just auto sort the work that you're doing automatically.
So this is whatever app that you use on your desktop, it automatically, you don't have to start it. Okay, I'm using, Google Sheets now, and then you stop it later. It automatically kind of assigns this block of time, and then you can put more properties to that block of time that you spent on that application.
Yeah, basically you have a little app. The way it works is that there's a little app you download and have it running in the background, and it tracks your application usage. So it's like anything from any app that you spend time open and you're doing stuff on it, it will kind of count. It'll track that block of time. And if I show you, for example, on this day, You can see the timeline.
Mm.
Where is it? Oh, I can't see it anymore. It used to be visible. Um, yeah, so it automatically tracks it. And then as you give it more information, as you start tagging them, it will start automatically knowing what those application usage, like where it belongs. So in this
Mm.
case, like I have a communication thing, which is mostly stuff from like emails or like Slack or something.
Yeah.
So like it automatically just buckets all that time.
Right. Okay. Because
Um,
you're not really on Slack for an hour and 40 minutes at a time. You're kind of on it
no,
for 2 minutes at a time, but this kind of chunks it.
yeah, that's right. It kind of just collects and sums up all that time. So this isn't like a timeline. This is more like they're just the buckets of things that you've
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
find this really helpful because I can start seeing like actually, for me, I spend a lot of time actually organizing and planning stuff, and also a lot of time just talking to people.
Mm.
So it, and then the interesting thing here as well is that you can set things like budgets. So like, you know, should you, like you said, I don't want to spend more than 10 hours a week on, meetings. And it will kind of say,
Mm.
oh, hey, you've really spent like 7 hours on like the first 3 days on meetings. Like, be careful, So
Mm.
I think it's kind of nice, but it costs like $17 a month or $14 a month or something. So it's not too expensive, but I kind of stopped because I was like, I wasn't sure it was worth it, but maybe I should go
Also,
back to
you
it.
already got a lot of insights out of it. It sounds like
Yeah,
you've already observed some patterns, and you can come back to it, I guess, if you feel like you need another kind of checkup um, on your routines.
yeah, exactly. And you can see like some days I only work like 4 hours. This one is broken. This 1 hour 33. It lost some information. I'm not that lazy. Uh, but like that's the thing though. Like this day was, in some sense, like I felt as productive.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah,
That's really interesting, though, because like the organization and planning piece, I think, is super underrated. I actually think the way the ratios that kind of were projected on your kind of daily timeline is really reasonable. As in, I simply put it, it's a version of um, the workshop mantra of measure twice, cut once.
Hmm.
Instead of cut 40 times to get the one that you need. Because sometimes that's what I feel like. I feel like
Yeah,
I spent 6 hours on this thing, but I don't feel a sense of how far I got. I feel like I'm always kind of haven't done enough, kind of those kind of feeling. But those kinds of feelings, I feel they come from a lack of clarity on your priorities, on
hmm.
where you are, and what you should be doing, and kind of like the bigger picture kind of thing. So if the bigger picture is kind of clear, then even when you're doing the actual work, you don't feel lost. You can, because you know how it's tracking against the big picture of how everything else is going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I agree. Um, Sorry.
No.
Um, Oftentimes this is a challenge that I run in my work as well. Like we have um, we have meetings to decide. Like people have meetings with that, and they go to the meetings, for example, with the expectation that we'll make decisions, we'll get on the same page, and oftentimes that can be the case, but also equally as often, I think you just get more confused because people didn't come in because like they didn't have the time to think about it. They didn't have the
Yeah.
time to spend kind of figuring it out or kind of writing out their thoughts or doing some research.
Mm.
And I think that's really important. And I know this now that before I come into every meeting, I'll probably spend a significant, not significant, but like at least a couple minutes to
Mm.
just clear my thoughts because at least for me, I've realized that I'm not someone who can think very quickly on the fly. Again, it's like don't be a superhuman. I accept this as a limitation of my personal being right now. But that helps me a lot, right? And I think it also helps other people a lot because I say like,
Mm,
hey, I would always often send people like a message like a few days in advance of the meeting and be like, hey, we're gonna have this meeting. What are we doing? Can you come with some ideas? So please
mm,
think about it a little bit. Here are some thoughts that I have, and we kind of get people to reflect on it a little bit. It's not quite organization and planning, maybe. You're not like organizing and
mm.
writing out information, but your brain, I think, starts to think about it a little bit better.
Dude, 100%. For me, that's like saying it's, if you use a sport analogy, it's not what you're willing to do when you're on court. It's not what you're willing to do when the game starts that counts. It's what you're willing to do in preparation for the game that will count.
Mm.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I could
Yeah.
have the most crazy anime Naruto determination to, beat Roger Federer on the tennis court, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna work my damn hardest when I'm on the court to win. That's not gonna make a difference versus Roger Federer. Obviously, it's what I think you're able to do in preparation before you get there. And I've had a lot of similar frustrations in meetings where sometimes I've been the person guilty of this.
Oh yeah, me too.
Where you come if the meeting itself is game time, you know time that we have with other people is precious. We can't be in meetings all day, so we have to really
Mm.
make it count. That's on court time, right? But I sometimes people arrive without context, without having thought about it before, and you spend half an hour just getting everyone up to speed on things, and by that time everyone's like, oh, okay, now we can start thinking. And it can get quite inefficient, just draining as well. And also, having been on both sides, it's somewhat, I feel, disrespectful to the people who have prepared, who really care about the project. Um, but humans.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I got you. It's a
Mm,
mindfulness exercise, right? Like
mm,
just knowing what you're doing, like coming in. It's not like you're supposed to come in with a stack of papers and you're doing like, that's also not really the point, right? Like, but like you, but when you're coming in, you're exercising a sense of mindfulness, and I think also, like even if you don't come in prepared to a meeting, let's
mm,
say it's like the analogy of the meeting, right? Or like, even if you don't come in like to your game, like practicing anything,
mhm,
just spending the time to get together, get on the same page, understand what each other wants from each other, like listening actively, like
mm,
and like in an empathetic sense, like being very mindful of each other, I think helps a lot. Like
mm,
like I think oftentimes people come into conversations and they just want to use it as a chance to express themselves, and that's
mm,
great, right? Like I have ideas for this. I found a great idea. Here's the cool thing I found, but I think yeah, it's not. It's like you can do that in other places. You can just write that up and share it in the email. It's not really the point of being there with other people. Um, at least how I feel anyway. Like
what is the point of being there with other people?
I think I feel like meetings are primarily useful for just um, getting on the same page. Like, I don't think meetings should be there for making decisions. Like, I don't think you should use meetings for decisions. I don't think you should use meetings to solve problems. Like, it should be there just like, hey guys, how we all feeling? Oh, we're really tired. Oh, that's that sucks. Like, hey, what do you think about this thing? Oh yeah, actually, I think it's not a big deal. And, oh, what do you think? So, oh, actually, I think it's a bit of a problem because X, Y, Z. Oh yeah, that's cool. All right, let's go away, have a think a little bit, and then maybe regroup later, right? Like, I think
Mm,
meetings are all about just sense checking, making sure people are okay. Like, because people need time to. I don't know. I don't like for me, I like working on problems my own, and it's not because I hate working with other people or I just physically I need time. Your brain needs time to do things, right? Like
Yeah.
figure things out.
Yeah.
Like who cuts like I don't know the woodworking analogy. Like who like oh let's kind of do like a let's kind of like sew up like cut up some wood. It's like three people like holding the same piece of wood. Just like, ah! Oh, it's not really a good idea. That's not really the analogy, I think. But
It is. No, I think that works. I think that works. But there's this at the same time, there's this very idealistic picture of collaboration and design thinking where everyone is like with post-it notes and we're going to solve this problem together over a 3-hour period. And I think some of that can be really useful when it's all tools, right? Depends on how you use it. But I think you're right. There is this other side of collaboration, especially when it's a room full of specialists. The actual piece of code that has to be written, like you do it yourself. you kind of in the meetings you would align with your team, kind of the direction. Okay, here's the next flagpole. These are the things that we need to get accomplished, and then you kind of like most of the teams that I've worked well with, it's everyone's really clear on that, so they can go back into their individual work modes, and then work on their things. And when everyone brings their piece back together, it fits, right? Because so many times with new teams, it doesn't fit when it comes back together. The 5 pieces that split up doesn't fit. And it's almost like the purpose of the meeting is to make sure that it does fit, you know? Krishna has this mindset of 1 + 1 = 3.
yeah, I agree.
And I think, and I talked to him about it recently, it's not that he's not saying, what I realize is he's not saying that
he's not saying that two
whole,
people can have a baby.
No. He's not saying the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Always. That's not what he's saying. He's saying if you do it right, then the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts. It's not guaranteed, because I've sure worked in teams where at the end of the week I'm like, man, I should have just done all of this myself, and it would have been much more efficient than 3 people working on this, you know. But if the communication, the teamwork comes together, then you can really achieve, get that exponential gain, I guess, out of teamwork.
Yeah, I think recognizing why, like I guess you got to recognize why you guys are coming together, right? Like you go back to the, as you said before, the like solving a problem using a design workshop or something. Like it only works if you're trying to solve a problem. Like sometimes, and I guess that's the other challenge. We use meetings. It's funny because like meetings are a catch-all term for some ambiguous concept where like, hey, we're all in the room. Now what? Kind of. I mean, like obviously, you can come with an agenda, but still, I think it's not surprising that sometimes meetings have a bad rap for being very ineffective, inefficient, ambiguous, and we certainly have a lot of that as well, and I experienced that a lot. Yeah, but like recognizing the why you guys are together is important. Yeah, like that. Like what I'm curious though, like from Christian's perspective, does he feel like it's something that can be achieved for all types of people? Like, so it's just a thing that you just have to work on as a group. So like maybe it's a process problem, or maybe it's a culture problem that can be fixed. Or do you feel like it's more like literally, like some people just can never work together, or like it's a fundamental misalignment, it's harder to solve than just having a chat about it or kind of agreeing together.
um, that's it's a difficult problem, but at the end of the day, to solve any kind of really big problem, whether it's going to Mars or ending a war or starting a war or whatever, like
Starting war, I think, could be much
it's gonna
easier.
involve the collaboration of a large number of people, much more than 6 people. And so for me, it's not even a matter of, when I think about it, is it it's not even a matter of, is it possible, or kind of at the level of personalities. It's like we have to learn to do it,
Now we all should just
or else
not work together.
humanity loses. You have to
It's tough though.
be
It's
able
tough
to do
though.
it.
It's tough
Hmm?
though. I would say, like, I can't remember who said this. I need to really check this. But there's this like philosopher, right? Like, who talks about when you have a society, what you're sacrificing is kind of some sense of individualism. You know, like to live fruitfully and happily in a society, you kind of have to give up some of your individual freedoms. And I think it's the same for a workplace, right? I know Lean Startup book has a quote somewhere, I can't remember, where it's like, to work effectively as a team, you have to accept that your individual performance will be suboptimal. Like, you have to accept that, like, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that is a rule or like a true fact, but I think there's some wisdom in there that, and I think it's hard because, like, no one wants to think that, everyone wants to do their best, like, and I feel like sometimes, like, it's a people don't realize that I'm doing, like, just because, I don't know, I think sometimes people don't recognize that sometimes they might get focused on just wanting to do the best job they can, but in the I guess meantime, maybe they don't recognize that they're not maybe taking care of their team, or maybe it's a cultural value thing. Like, maybe, like, as workplaces, organizations maybe need to put a stronger emphasis, or like maybe if they're weaker, if their teams don't work well together, maybe they just need to place stronger emphasis on building that kind of culture. So what was I saying? I don't even know. I just wanted to say that quote, apparently.
That's a
Yeah.
good quote.
Yeah,
Just
don't quote me on that one.
if you okay, so if you had, for example, if you had to write a paper for university, right, just on developing skills as a team player, right, what are some of the things that you might try in that paper to develop these skills? Because for me, I didn't learn these skills at uni. I worked mostly alone. I've had, or I went out of my way to work with you and other people, and for me that was really fun. But I think, yeah, there weren't too many opportunities to practice those skills.
Yeah, that's a interesting question. I feel, at least for me, so I don't know if I would put this in a paper, but I think for me now, let's say if I was a tutor back at uni and there were group exercises, I would probably try things like, classic things where I think the focus should be about understanding yourself and how you want to work, and understanding how other people like to work. I think that's the core of working together, right? Because maybe you find out that you can't work together because you guys have different ways of working. That's fine. Like, you don't. Not everyone has to work together in harmony, right? You just have to. But maybe it's a sign that you need to not work together. Maybe it's better you work with someone else, or find someone you can work with, right? But like, so it's like, I think real classic examples are like getting people to classify themselves. Like for example, Shanshan's workplace, they did an exercise, like a skill mapping exercise, to ask people like, what kind of stuff do you like to actually do? Like, what do you feel is your expertise? Like, what do you feel is the thing that you bring to the team, right? And people answer like so many different things, right?
Mm.
You find out like across a team of designers, each designer wants to do very different things. So some people just only want to do design. Some people actually don't. They actually want to. They're actually more strategic. Some people are more tactical. Like Myers-Briggs test. Like no matter how you feel about it, I think that's another useful way of thinking about it. But also things like maybe you should just trade roles.
Mm.
Like the classic problem with like not classic problem, but the thing that happens in like group exercises at design school, I've noticed, right, is that people fall into roles immediately. I'm the developer. I'm going to do all the development. I'm the game artist. I'm going to make all the art, right? And that's great. You get to do what you want, but maybe you should try swapping roles, or at least like doing something like that, so you understand the
Mm-hmm.
difficulties each other, what the challenges each other has, right? So that you don't be like, oh God, why is that person doing that? Um, yeah, I think a lot of those things, I think any exercise where you can learn more about each other is important, because at least in the context of doing group work, I feel you're more obviously the focus is not, it's not on it's on doing the work, right? Like you're building a game, you're designing an app, you're
Mm.
running a project. But I think it's important to not to always have something in there, so that you as a team can bond and check in with each other, right? Whether that's
Mm.
just having a retrospective every week, or just having um, you know setting ground rules from the beginning to you know be honest with each other, and maybe you guys will be critical of each other, but not to feel like don't feel but not to feel so emotionally connected to that thing, because I think, like, at least from my perspective, those are the things I used to be so scared about when working in a group. I used to agonize over something I didn't like, and I felt something that someone wasn't doing correctly, and I wanted to tell them. I didn't know how to tell them, and yeah, so like being, I think, and but like if I in my case, I felt like if we spend more time to bond as a group and know each other better, I
Mm.
think we would be more comfortable talking about a lot of these things, because working as a group is a it's an it's not like like it's not instant. Like I bet you, like if we
Mm.
work together on anything, you'll probably fight, like, and it's probably because, and even if we're like because I say that because Shasha and I fight all the time, like all the time, right? And if I fight with her all the time, and I know her, lived with her for 10 years, well, not 8 years or whatever, like of course I'm gonna fight with other people, even if I know them really well, and even though I consider them good friends, right? So like you gotta just work on it, like it's not an
Yeah.
excuse, like oh, you're my friend for like 15 years, let's do something,
Yeah.
like
No.
yeah.
Wise, wise words.
It's
Wise
just, it's just
words.
like Shanshan. Like Shanshan and I talk a lot about this stuff, because like we both kind of go through a lot of these like frustrations working in teams.
Mm. Mm.
Um, I'm sure a lot of people have this as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Insights.
I have this. When you first get uh, young tennis players to play doubles,
Oh my god.
you
Yeah.
know, with that
Oh,
egotistical
interesting. Yeah, yeah,
12-year-old boys who just want to do smashes and stuff. You get them to play doubles, right?
yeah.
And they all go to this. The first thing they always do is this. They go, okay, you take this half, I take this half. End of story. Right? That's like
That's
the
one
most
plus one equals
basic.
two.
That's most basic.
Yeah.
But that's 1 + 1 = 2. You're just gonna get what you get. But there's some minute kind of stuff there as well. That sounds really clean, right? You get this, you get stuff on this side, I get stuff on that side. But you can double click on that line. What if the ball is transitioning from one, like going diagonally, and it's gonna cross over from this side to
Mm,
that side, right?
yeah.
Um, and there's all these kind of conditional things,
Yeah.
right, that could happen around that line. And initially that line seems really clear, but the more you play, you realize um, like you're gonna have to develop an algorithm to sort through decision making around the kind of blurriness of that line,
Mm,
and B, if you stick with that model, you can only go so far. You won't be maximizing the potential of, for example, let's say someone plays a very short ball, right? And one person runs up to the front,
yeah.
right? There's a gap at the back, which would be easily covered if they switch sides, right? But because they're playing, you stay on your side, I stay on my side, right? The guy at the front has to run all the way back, and that's a
Mm,
very uh, much less efficient of a play,
mm,
right? And and when you look at the other end of the spectrum, um, things get a lot more sophisticated, but also things get a lot more intuitive. Where like the top doubles players, they would have, almost some people have hand signals. Some people have almost an ESP-like ability to fill each other's gaps,
mm,
which only comes through time. It's so rare to have that instantly, and it also depends on, like, entirely on who you play with. Um, so yeah, I can kind of see those two worlds and agree
mm.
with your observations.
The teamwork is not free.
It's not free, man. It's not
Yeah.
free. The goal has to be worth it.
That's a good. I like that analogy. I also like. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Man, I need to. Oh man. Maybe this is why I'm not good at playing sports with lots of people because like I'm also like I'm reflecting now as a child. I was very awkward. I'm still very awkward now, but it was really difficult. I was really shy. I couldn't make many friends. I think, or it was hard for me to make friends. And so like maybe that's why like every time I play sports, I always felt like I was really bad because like I didn't know what other people were doing. I had no clue what was going on. Like I didn't feel like anyone was there to help me. So it's just like okay, it's just like run around, just pretend that I'm doing something. Yeah,
Whoa, well, you've done a 180 on that, huh? You're
that's not
like
true.
project manager.
Have you done your Myers Briggs test recently?
Not recently, but I'm pretty sure I'm the same thing as I was.
What's that?
Uh, ENTP.
ENTP.
Yeah, for
Um,
entrepreneur.
uh, what is ENTP? Oh, okay. I'll search it, but yeah,
uh,
I didn't used to bother about those things, but I feel they're kind of useful to just think about it. Yeah,
yeah, they are definitely
just think
useful.
about it.
They're
The
useful
beta.
lenses to look at situations. They're
Yeah,
not the be all and end all. Oh, I am this. I am a Gryffindor, so I'm going to be
yeah,
good.
but the Gryffindor stuff is like
PG,
definitely.
you know.
um, there's an extra letter now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an A or T. So like A is like A and T is like I think it's effective or turbulent. So it's like I use
One
someone
sounds
who
much better than the other.
no like I can't remember what it was like I think it was along the lines of I use someone who like is a bit chaotic in the way they approach things. But you kind of just have to do everything and just like it's a bit messy. Or use someone who's a little bit more like I don't know, more reflective, like slower, but slower pace, but more deliberate. Yeah. I feel like you're a T.
No.
You can be 50-50, 50%. I'm like 49-51.
I mean, to be honest, I've this is something that I reflected on this last night, actually,
Okay. You look at yourself in
because
the mirror.
yeah, no, I played Dominion.
Oh really?
I
Did you
played
actually play
Dominion.
Dominion?
Huh?
Did you actually?
No, not yesterday, a few days ago, but um,
Who is the girl I see? Okay, yeah, sorry.
um, and in that game, there's a strategy where you get rid of it's a deck building game, right?
Yeah.
There's a strategy where you minimize your deck, right? Where you strategically trash your cards, right? So
Yeah.
your deck becomes really thin, and you know exactly
What you're
kind
gonna
of
get.
more or less the ratio of cards in your deck, and more or less what kinds of some kind of consistency in the turn that you're going to have next, because you know
Yeah.
what cards are in your deck, instead of having 70 cards in your deck where it's much more random, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of related post COVID, like level 2 New Zealand at the moment, going from level 3 to 2 was quite a difficult experience for me personally.
3-2-2.
Yeah, 3 to 2. Because
Mm.
I feel it would be. I know that it's not just me, where people have developed their routines. I kind of for about a month and a half, people developed their indoor social distancing while being productive routines.
Yeah.
No traffic, they don't have to go anywhere. And now at level 3, we're starting to open up again, and I bit off way more than I could chew. Like Christian and I we spent the first Monday to Wednesday, we were at the studios until 10 p.m. Not because anyone forced us or anyone, because there was that much to do, but we just weren't organized. If that makes sense, there was just a lot of things going on.
Like you feel like maybe this I don't know, calibration step because you guys were so far away, like working apart for so long.
Yeah, and I didn't have clear priorities,
Mm.
right? And for me, for some reason, I linked that situation with the card game, where I feel like I can be a lot more creative if I know, if I'm in control of the few cards in my deck, rather than having so many cards in the bag, in the deck, that
Mm.
I don't know there's you lose a sense of control with it, with that. I
Yeah.
don't know where I'm going with this.
No, I get you. It's like, what's that term? It's so funny because I talked to Shanshan about this also yesterday. Something similar, but like some um decision paralysis, or not. I don't know if that's how you feel about it. I'm not trying to put
Yes.
words in
Yeah.
your mouth.
Okay. Yeah. It's related.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, I have a deep question for you.
Oh my God. Is this for the podcast?
Huh?
Is this for the podcast?
I don't know. Depends on
Wait,
your
wait,
answer.
wait, 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 wait. Give me a chance. Give me a chance. Give me a chance. Let me change my background.
Do you know this plant, right? This plant. Everyone knows this plant. It's like the
It's the
quintessential hipster office plant.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember what it's called, but I know what it is. Is it from Unsplash?
I have no idea. It's the Monstera deliciosa, otherwise known as the Swiss cheese plant. And
Really?
yeah,
I have to say I really like your the. I don't know if it's changed, but it feels like it's different. Your recent mass studio identity, I think, is really sharp. Personally, I think it looks really clean. I don't know who's been working on it, but props to whoever. Maybe all of you guys.
well, thank you. We're getting there, one step at a time. Thanks for your
Really?
feedback.
Who's doing most of it? Is it you?
Yeah, it's me.
Really? It kind of looks like your style, but then at the same time, it looks very like, I don't know. I think you used to have like a little bit more. I don't know. Like I always remember you did a lot of kind of quirky stuff. Is not the right word, but like like you tried to push it. Like you weren't sure. Like you just like push it, or like you try to almost like go so close to like the. I'm just thinking about that paper thing you did in like first year. I can't remember. It was like a
Oh
fold of
yeah,
paper.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
With the
was
crease.
yeah, I was like it's like borderline like like borderline genius. Like people weren't sure. It's like is this guy like trolling, or is he like a genius? You know what I mean? But like I'm not saying that your design isn't as creative anymore, but I think it definitely looks like very professional, like very sharp. I feel like everything's like being coming together. I'm sure this is a lot of hard work from you and the rest of the team as well. Because I was just like going through your Instagram page and it seems like so well curated. So like I'm like really impressed. Like you have the time to like put a lot of like effort into doing all this. Like I mean, obviously you should be, but it's not easy. I want to acknowledge that. If you're putting this in a podcast, I want to acknowledge that you guys have done a lot of work. And yeah. Looks good.
Whoa, that is like that is the only kind of validation that matters for me. Thank you so much.
Ha ha. Funny.
No, I'm
No.
serious, man.
Sorry, I also didn't want to say
I
yeah.
respect your design aesthetic and design sensibilities a lot.
Oh man. No, you shouldn't. Don't
I
judge
don't know
me.
where it's gone these days because I
Yeah,
haven't
that's right.
seen that much work from you, but um, yeah, it's that project. You know, I had experience recently.
Some guy did the same thing.
No. So that project, you know, just to add some context to this conversation, the brief was to fold a piece of paper in some kind of way and to
Yeah.
illustrate it.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I ended up doing something that took me literally 10 minutes. It was like a week-long exercise. I did a crease, and everyone, you know, I was like, oh, is this? I was really afraid. Like, I like this, but it doesn't feel like it's enough work, you know. And so I was
Yeah.
really like afraid. And then I showed it to the lecturer, and he was like, this is great. You're done. And that was kind of a defining moment for me as a designer, where before in my high school career, the amount of time and effort that I spent to prepare for something, or the amount of evidence that I had to show to get to something, that was kind of what was marked, right? And that was proportional to the grade that I would get.
I see what you mean.
Whereas in design school, like this was in the very first kind of weeks, I realized that, oh, it's not just about like in a, I don't know how to put it. It's like shortcuts to make shortcuts work in design sometimes. I'm not saying be lazy, but so recently a student at the Auckland University Design School, they're designing a lamp at the moment. And a part of the brief is to do a technical layout. So whatever you need to show to a fabricator to be able to make this lamp, right? And you need to do a visual illustrative layout, you know, like a hero shot. It can be rendering, it can be sketches, whatever. And this kid came to me, and he was like, he said, look, I want to show that this lamp can pivot on a point, you know, it has a range of motion, so you can change the area which the light source is, you know, affecting. And he had done these little sketches that showed that, right? And then he said, well, for the specification prototype, I'm going to do these 3D renders and turn it into an animation to communicate that this lamp can pivot on a point, right? And I was like, dude, you're already done. Like, that point is communicated to me. You don't need to spend 6 hours learning how to do a 3D rendering animation of this pivoting thing for me to get that. Do you know what I mean? That he was trying to, and he said to me, oh, it just feels like I needed to do, if I spent more effort to communicate that idea, I would get a better mark. You know? And I'm like, no, the point is communicate your idea and do it effectively. Don't go, you don't have to do anything more than that for the specification prototype, where the purpose is to communicate a function and not a mood or a feeling, or to give an illusion of this thing existing, which the illustrative prototype, that's what it's for.
Yeah, but I think it's a classic challenge for a lot of people, because I think, you know, people don't know when to stop sometimes. It's not like, yeah, like, at least personally from my perspective, you know, like sometimes there are projects where it's very clear what you want and you can see it in your head and you just do it. and like sometimes you don't know what it is, and you're trying it, you're coming up with some cool stuff, and you do feel like the more I try, the more value I can get, the more I can explore, because maybe there's so much more left to do. It's not clear. It's like you're swimming in the ocean that you don't know how far it stretches. But I also think like the challenge here is that maybe um, for me now, I recognize this is also perhaps whenever I feel like that, it's because I don't actually understand the problem. I don't understand what I'm trying to do. It's more like, so is the question more about me needing to keep exploring? Or is it maybe I should say, hey, let's stop. Maybe I'll think about what the problem is, or what am I trying to achieve first, understand that problem more, and then look at what I have. And if it's enough, maybe that's enough, right? And just accept, right? But I think when you're younger, as well, if you're a student, like I think there is a restlessness that you want to do everything. You want to you want to have no stone unturned. Like you can't accept that, what if that one, the next thing, what if the next sketch, what if the next render is the one, it's going to make it, 10 times better, 100 times better.
So now, having gone through all the project experiences and, things after your learning student days, how do you now know when a project is finished or when something is done?
I don't think projects can be completed, like fundamentally, right? Like, sorry, I don't. Maybe this is not the answer you want. It's like
No, I don't. I have no.
But like fundamentally, like there are a couple. Like if you think about it from a product standpoint, right? When is a project done? Well, if the project meets the requirements, if you test it against your users, and it works, and people have no complaints, that's done. You can say to some extent that's done, right? But you can always do more testing. What if the people you're testing is not enough? What if they're not the right people? Maybe you missed something. You can test again. Maybe you can do more discovery work. You can do more evaluation. You can find out more problems, right? But then it's a question of like diminishing returns. And I think that's why I mean, like, you can keep working on things forever, right? And maybe that's good. Maybe I think like when you look at like hyperrealism, like in art, right? Like there is a magic to like doing exercising skill in art and refining to an nth degree, to the point where it is like mind blowing. And there's some kind of admiration when you look at something like that, right? But then I think the practical thing in the real world, it's kind of like it's probably a tipping point, right? Like there is a diminishing return. Probably for me, it's a combination of like it's diminishing return plus there's something more important or more exciting to work on, and I feel like well, this is enough. Like, even if I feel it's not complete, I don't feel it'll give. And I think maybe this is the important thing for me is that now it's not about what I feel, but how I feel the project, other people perceive it, or like some external thing rather than some intrinsic thing, right? So like, if people experienced it and I've created some joy in people's life, or if it's out there, the work is documented, it's fine. I can pick it up anytime because it is in a good state, right? I guess that's the other thing, right? Don't leave your work in a bad state because that makes it hard to pick up. So it's more about, so like maybe like, yeah. So trying to sum up all the thoughts. When is a project done? I think a project's never done, but I think if you were to pick a point to count when it's done is when you feel like you can stop, or like when you feel like if you stop and you move away to something else, you can come back and it's not a problem. Like that's how I feel. You wouldn't feel like angsty about it. You wouldn't feel sad about it. You wouldn't feel, like, oh man, I forgot to do something. So, and I think that's a combination of like how you feel about it. That's important as well in some cases, and how you feel the projects has been successful or been able to achieve those objectives. Yeah. So
how do you prepare a project towards end of a process so that it can be picked up again with less effort?
Oh no, my camera's frozen. So
should we restart?
No, that's fine. I'll just turn off my video.
No, I want your face. I think we should restart.
I can plug in my old webcam, and that's if you just want a video. It's not going to be a very nice looking video, but it might be okay.
No, you can. We have time. If
Oh
if
my
you wanna
god.
restart
Okay.
your
Okay. All
computer.
right. Okay. I'll restart my. I have to restart my computer.
Yeah, go on. I'll get some water.
Oh my god. Okay. Sure. I'll call you back.
Okay. I'll be on.
Yeah. While I was having a pee, I was thinking about your questions. It was a good time. I'm gonna. I will. Yeah. I will. I should have said that. Anyway.
I'll cut it out. Don't worry.
No, it's okay. I'm human. I'm happy to accept that. The sorry, I'm trying to connect my mouse, and my computer is like really fucked. I'm really disappointed of my ThinkPad. It's like so many like little niggling problems. Anyway, okay. So the question was, when is a good time? The question is, when is a good time to stop a project? Is that what was, or what would you do to put your project in a good state such that you can continue it or pick up from it later? You know, like when we were in design school and they were asking us to keep track of a blog, you know, document your work as you're doing it. It's a blog. And I don't know if you did it, and I tried to do it, but I wasn't very successful. But often in my case, you know, I'll do the project first and then I'll retroactively document stuff. That's literally it's not the way to do it, I guess. Right? Like you should never do it like that. And I feel like there's such an impulse when you do something to just do. But I think documentation is really important. And what I mean by documentation is just like keeping track of what happened, right? Like whether it's your project resources, like taking time to just organize your file structure, taking time to write what you've done over the week, even if it's just a little summary, doing a retrospective, taking time to plan out some of the list out some of the ideas you have in your head with clarity, right? Not just like have a notepad open with like your ideas in a mess and you don't even bother to like capitalize words or like organize them neatly and you just save it somewhere and you forget about it. But, like actually put it out on the list, write why you feel like that, collect some inspiration, keep track of the work you're doing, keep track of the inspiration you're finding, put it all together, right? I feel like that's the part of work that I'm still trying to improve on. But I think it's something that I think if we practice as a continuous part of our work, then you can stop anytime, I think part of the pressure of wanting to work on not part of pressure, but I think sometimes when we go back to the question of like, when is the project done? I think part of the problem is that you don't know how much work you've done sometimes, you don't know how much you've achieved. You don't know what your objectives are. That's important as well. And I think you kind of have to do the legwork on, like I have like so many projects. I have probably like 50 or 60 projects just like in a list, right? Some of them are great. Like I have mood boards, I have a task list, I have like a summary of like what am I trying to achieve. I have a sense of what I can do. And those are great because I always come back and pick up on them. But there's like some projects where it's like literally like 3 words in the document. And I it's almost like I had some kind of like idea, like I don't know, maybe like some of those might be true where maybe I'm just like half asleep and I come up with something and I wake up and just type it up. But then it's like, I don't even know what it is. I keep it there because I'm hoping that one day I'll just look at it and be like, all right, I remember now. But I know it's kind of not going to happen, right? I think so like, I don't know. So for me, that's kind of the answer. It's just like, you just have to, however you want to do it, document your process as you're doing the work. Because because I think that's so important. Like, and this goes back to the time needing to get on the same page with the team and the time you should spend on organizing. Because like, I don't know, like when you work as a team, there's always a problem. Like, where's this file? Where's the document? How do I get access to this? Right? And the more layers of friction you add, the less people want to work together, and also the less the less on the page you will be with other people, right? And you gotta do, if you truly believe in the work you do, and you truly respect your work and the time of your teammates, and respect yourself as an expert or a designer or whatever, and your role in that project, then you need to put in the diligence, I guess, to document the work, express what is important to you, make sure that other people understand the project, especially if you work in a large organization. Like one of the things that we have. Sorry, I'm going a little bit.
No, this is good.
One of the things that we have trouble in our organization is that we have so many projects. We have numerous research projects running, right? And some of them are well documented. It's the same with me, right? Like some of them are well documented, some of them are not, right? And the challenge is that it creates a huge bottleneck, because then there's this negative feedback loop where people want to work on other people's projects. You want people to work in these projects. You want to help each other. But if the project's not documented, there's so much friction or just difficulty to share things, to know what that project is about, to understand what it is, how they can support it, how they can help it, right? And because of that, less people want to work on it. It gets less priority, and it makes it harder, and then it puts that project in a position where other people don't think it's valuable, or people don't know what's going on, and it puts it in a bad light, and also puts the people who are working on it in a bad light, because maybe they are working really hard on it, but we just don't know. So I think, especially particularly for large organizations, I think this is like a non-starter. Like if your team is doing lots of work and there's nothing, like there's no documentation, like even if they're doing great work, I think that's kind of a red flag, because it's like who cares if you're doing good work if no one knows how you're doing it, and no one knows what your secret sauce is? Because ideally you can share that. You should share that, right? You should share how you're doing your work, how effective you are, especially if you're really good. Yeah, because I think it's not a coincidence that the best people, like really good artists, like really good designers, like maintain really great blogs. They have really good documentation. Their sketchbooks are immaculate. I think that's part of the discipline. It's part of becoming a good whatever, that you can do that. It comes kind of second nature.
Wow, man, documentation is one of those things where I think it's almost everyone would agree that it's an important part of your of any creative practice or non-creative practice, and also that it has a lot of value. But almost universally, it's the first thing to get left behind almost, when you actually practice the things that you do.
Is it though?
I don't know. I struggle with it too. And for the same, it's kind of like you have to sacrifice time and effort now to get something, to be able to have these benefits in the future of being able to have projects that are more shareable, being able to communicate better with your with the outside world, with your team, to be able to empathize more easily, more effectively with your past self when you had the idea at the time. To all these benefits are it's in the future, right? And it's in the future, and therefore that to spend effort now, sometimes significant amount of effort, sometimes you could probably spend, if you really want to document well with photography and writing, maybe the same amount of time that you produced that you put in to get to a point, you might put into documentation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't I find it very difficult to practice that.
I'm going to preface by saying I'm sorry because I was eating a biscuit. I thought my mic
Oh,
was muted.
you're allowed to eat, man.
Okay. Um,
This is this isn't the UN. We're not
but I think
solving
this goes back to
global
what Krishna says, man. Isn't that what Krishna says? Like, you don't have to spend. Yeah, I know what you mean because I also have this problem. Like, it's like so difficult even to try. I don't know, like, but I feel like first, I think for me, what helps is that I just accept that my documentation is going to be real bad because it's actually easy to. I think with the tools we have nowadays, especially digital tools, it's not like you're writing stuff on a typewriter. Like you can always move things around. You can reorganize things as long as the information is there. I mean, you have a brain. You're smart. You know you have embedded information. That's true. So you can take the time, but like you got to start. Like even if it's messy, you can always take the time to just get it out and then like over time kind of work it on it. Like nothing starts perfect, right? And I think like I finding ways to remove that perfection barrier is important, at least for me. But it's like what Krishna says, like if you spend like like a couple minutes, like that's probably enough, like if you just like set like 5 minutes a day to just like write something, you probably get started and you'll be like, oh man, there's so many things I need to write, and then you spend like half an hour on it. But also maybe like in your case, like I'm kind of shocked because you do such a good job kind of promoting yourself on like mass and on the Instagram page and all this stuff. Like, why isn't your documentation, I guess, like couldn't the documentation be part of things you share as well? Like couldn't, like, at least in your perspective, like your documentation could just be a photo. Like why does it have to be some technical super deep thing? I mean, like I guess it depends as well what you count as documentation, right? Like because I think in your case, like you do a lot of good. I would say you do really good documentation. You do capture lots of moments of people and like what's going on. Like so, I don't know. I don't know what do you mean by documentation in like from your perspective? Like what counts as good documentation?
I guess it has different purposes. Let's say we're working on it. We're working on it, and Krishna is really driving, you know, driving the details, which are important. How to document, how to do folder structures when you start a new project, stuff like that. Krishna has been pushing, and it's only over time that I've gotten to really appreciate more and more as days go by, the effort and the emphasis that he puts into these more seemingly mundane details of how we work together. But if you're hearing this, Krish, we love you. Thank you.
Hans, I'm really shocked because you are a Kramvisa boy. I expect better of you. Like if Clemens is listening in, then you're gonna get whooped, boy.
Hey, I do all right. Okay, I do all right, but I just wish I could do. For me, yeah, there are levels. There are levels. There's documenting to keep a record of it. There's documenting to communicate with internal team to look back. There's also documenting to tell a story later on or as you go, right? And I think there are a lot of advantages of sharing as you go. A lot. It's kind of almost like, let's say if the guys who made the Eiffel Tower had a YouTube video every day of their process or bits of it, right? By the time that the Eiffel Tower opens, they would already have an audience. They would have people who would have been there with them on that journey, who understand the technical difficulties, the engineering feats, the mathematics that went in there. It would unite more people. These kinds of benefits that, to be honest, like every single design project that I've worked on, think about 48-hour film festival, right? There's always drama. If you document the process of any 48-hour film festival team, it'll go through a cycle of like, oh, this is such a great idea. Let's go. They go out and, they're like, I think this is good. And then they go, oh shit, this is really, are we doing the right thing? And then this is horrible. This is so
Man, that's so good. I would love to have like as a backup film for 48 hours, film about the 48-hour process. Right, that would be a great backup film. And maybe yeah, you should actually just do that.
That's funny. And that's what I'm thinking about when I think documentation, is that at the high level, you're kind of creating and curating content to be able to share with public. And that's a lot more, I think, than I guess well-kept notebooks and folder structures. Some energy has to go into it.
But it's a team effort, right? Like maybe in the context from your perspective, that is your priority for documentation, and rightly so, maybe. And maybe it's not just, I don't know, because math is it's getting quite big, presumably, right? I mean, not big, but like everyone probably has a chance to work on other projects together. It's not just a one person, right? So like, I feel it's like a team effort. Like everyone brings something. Like in a product team, I wouldn't expect a developer to document design work.
Let's talk about some less serious issues, topics.
That's boring, you mean?
Huh? No, dude. That was not boring. That was I could probably talk to you about this topic of teamwork documentation for about half a day, maybe an entire weekend.
How do you guys organize your internal stuff?
It's a craft in itself.
How do you guys organize stuff? Like, how do you guys organize? Like, how do you guys you guys use Slack? You guys use like Notion? Like, what do you guys use to like keep track of stuff? Like just Google Docs?
We use Slack. We use Google Docs a lot. We all our presentations, Google Slides. What is that? What is that disapproval? That look of disapproval.
Why don't you just use Notion? Use the right tools, man. That's the other thing. Other thing. For people who are lazy or difficult like me, right? I would you gotta have the right tools to support you. That's the other. That's step two. That's the other two. That's the other thing.
What does Notion have on what does Notion have on Slack or the Google Suite? Enlighten us.
Don't use Slack. Use Twist.
What?
You're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
I feel like this is how my dad would have felt when hey, Dad, just make a Facebook account.
Oh, can I share a screen?
Yeah, of course. There you go.
You've never seen Notion before. You've never used Notion before.
I feel like you've mentioned it over coffee.
It's really good. They just announced a free, unlimited free plan. But it's really good because I can show you, but I kind of don't want you to. I can show you my our company's internal Notion. Right, I was a big advocate for it because I've been using it for ages. But like, I had this problem. Like, everyone's like doing documentation in a different way, or like doing things in because like it's even hard in the university ecosystem because there's like Office 365 and whatever, and things are stored in different places, and some people use Google Docs, and it's like it's just like messy, and like some people use SharePoint, and it's a bit of a pain. So like, I use Notion, and I was like, okay, let's use Notion because we were using Trello before, but it was really hard to organize things. But like, you can think of it as like a combination of like a wiki page meets Google Docs meets like a bit of Airtable and Trello. But like, so like for example, like one of the things we use is we document. We have a knowledge base here that people can use to like we collect all the information across the university or something that are specific to us, and that's really great. But then like we also have, this is also really bad, but you can see, but I think it's better than before. Like we have like like a projects database, and this is one of the projects I'm working on, where like we use it to just like collaborate and like keep track of things, and like it's really good because it's like really easy, and like sorry, it's kind of confidential stuff, so I really shouldn't show you
No,
this,
I won't share the screen on
but
this.
like I guess the main thing is that it's a great, like you can just like it's a really good I think if you're a designer you really appreciate it because it has a lot of features. Like you can, it's really easy to write new things. You can, there's formatting, like know and you
Does
can
it
also do
does it double as a data storage, file storage?
you can, on the free plan, your maximum upload limit per file is 5 megabytes, but on the paid personal plan, like the one I have, it's an unlimited storage, so you can just upload as much as you want. Or you can also embed things. So like you can embed, I don't know if you use Miro, but you can embed Miro, you can embed a website. So like you can go like you can, there's also really good, like this there's a good,
I don't quite understand what problem this is solving.
Really?
I mean, I feel like it's like an in-between of a few different things.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I feel like you're using this to communicate. There's like a forum type of functionality, and also a curating kind of functionality, and a planning kind. It feels like a hybrid of, like, who would you recommend this to? What kind of individuals and teams would you recommend this to?
I recommend this to people who currently use like a bunch of different tools, but they feel kind of unsatisfied by it. I don't know, like
what
if you're
kind of
someone,
tools? Like,
well, I mean, like if you're someone who's like, oh, the thing that Notion is trying to solve is basically, for a lot of people, they have this very classic work format, which is we use Google Docs for storing our files, and then maybe we have a separate backup file storage, and then we use Trello to organize our tasks, and then maybe I don't know, maybe for as a database, maybe we have a Google site, or maybe even a wiki page, like a wiki, like internal wiki, or maybe a Confluence page or something. Like Notion tries to just, oh yeah, and then maybe you use Airtable because maybe you need to track something, like maybe it's like a table of like users or people. So like the Notion kind of just does all of those things. It tries to, you can build tables in it. You can have Trello boards, Trello cards, in it. You can use it as it's a really good writing tool. So you can just draft things really nicely. You can, it's rich multimedia. So you can embed videos and text and images really easily. So you can make really nice documentation for people. And it has a lot of support for embedding lots of different things. So you can embed like a Google Calendar, you can embed Google Sheets or charts. So like, it's kind of the one-stop shop that's supposed to bring everything together. So like Notion calls itself like an all-in-one workspace. So like, so that's why I use it, because like I don't want to pay for Trello, and I don't think Trello, like for me, like some people can do it, but like they use Trello for everything. They use it to track their projects. They also use it to hold their documentation. I think it's crazy. I don't know how you can live in that format, right? Same with Google Docs. Like it's great to use Google Docs, but like sometimes I don't know where things are, and like you go up and down the file formats. Like, so Notion tries to solve a lot of those problems by just saying, let's like just have an all-in-one tool that does all these things. I think it's done a pretty good job. The downside is that it's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. So if you enjoy using very precise, fully featured tools like you're a hardcore Trello power user, you probably won't enjoy Notion.
Does it also have like messaging communication aspect to it, or is it a separate thing? Like it would work well with Slack.
You can connect Slack to it. So like
But does it have internal features to
It has
communicate?
commenting. You can comment like, you have discussion. Like every page that you make in Notion has a discussion. You can have like a discussion area, and also you can highlight areas and add comments. So like, and tag people. You can also connect your Slack channel to the Notion page so that any updates get automatically shown on Slack as like a message.
Mm.
So there's pretty good kind of pretty good integration for a lot of that stuff.
All the pro tips. All the pro tips.
A lot of people use it, like Shanshan's workspace, like company uses it, like migrated to Notion. A lot of
Wow.
people are using it now. Yeah.
Wow. All right. We'll look into it, and hopefully a few other people will look into it as well.
Also, you shouldn't use Slack. You should use Twist. It's like if Slack was more organized. Like anyway, sorry. Anyway, Twist. It's a really easy name to remember. You can Google it yourself.
Okay. Okay. No, we'll give it
If
a
you
go.
pay only if you pay for Slack. If you don't pay for Slack, then keep using Slack.
No, we're paying for Slack, and
Really?
yeah. No, we're thinking of stop not paying for Slack anymore.
Because it's expensive, or because you don't think it's worth the money?
The latter. It just doesn't get used by enough of the people who are paying for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But you guys are quite spread out, though. Like, how do you guys like communicate then? Just use like Zoom or something.
We end up having meetings, video meetings. As you say, it's like the small regular touch points that align everyone. Those are really important. But otherwise, we use one channel like to share, new inspiration, things going on. We don't really feel like we use all the functionality of it to justify the cost. But we'll see. But thanks for the recommendations.
Sorry.
No, not at all. I wanted to ask you about man, we went through a lot, but let's pick an easy one.
I forgot you have questions.
Huh? It all went out the window. It all went out the window, but what's the best piece of content that you've consumed during lockdown?
I found out that YouTube has on the YouTube app on mobile, you can see the number of hours you watch YouTube.
Number of hours.
Hours per week you watch. I think the high I had was like 30 or so hours, like 30 to 40 hours of YouTube a week.
In a week.
Yeah. So the point I'm making, I watch a lot of trash. I was watching a lot of trash. Like, best piece of content. Like not just YouTube, right? It's just like anything.
No,
like,
any. Yeah.
Like podcasts. Does it count? It's not watching. Okay, interesting. Can I do more than one, or is it kind of like?
Yeah, no, you can do a few.
Okay.
I'll start.
Okay, you go first.
There's this YouTube channel that I found recently. It's called 2-Minute Papers by Dr. Caro Jonah Fahim.
Oh yeah, that's a classic. Yeah.
I just found out about it.
Really?
Yeah, and I've been smashing it. I've been watching so much, and that channel, you really get a sense of the accelerating pace of development in the research areas of AI, computer graphics, and machine learning. And because these are all concepts that we hear about it so much. It's one of those, it's like the Bitcoin of, 2020 or for the last few years. And seeing these research papers visualized and explained in this really simple format, I found gives some context and some texture to what's actually happening. Do you know what I mean? I get and it's actually incredible. Some of the things that are happening on the weekly. So that was
For sure.
That was that one. And I found another YouTube channel recently called The Lockpicking Lawyer. Do you know this guy?
I know of him. I've seen a couple of his videos, but I'm not subscribed.
I'm not subscribed either, but YouTube takes care of that because it keeps recommending me. And it's it's always the same story. There's this former lockpicker dude who now is more or less he just reviews different kinds of bike locks and things, and usually he just talks trash about how crap it is and just going, you can actually just use a toothpaste bottle to open this lock, kind of thing. Um, and so yeah, those are the two that come to mind as like recent finds. But definitely the 2 minute papers by Dr. Karo Jona Fahir.
Okay, I have three. I'll put three that I've watched. Not necessarily the best. I don't know how to
Yeah,
quantify, but like a
of
few
recent
couple
times.
that I've yeah. So I'll share my YouTube page. Actually, the two I wanted to, well, two of them I actually found them here. So one is called Accented Cinema. I don't know how to pronounce this, but then something DX channel. So like Accented Cinema is basically like kind of like one of those film essay type things, channels.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably seen heaps of them, like every frame a painting or whatever. But the focus is on the kind of history and kind of evolving, I guess, narrative of Chinese media. So it's kind of interesting for me because I'm trying to learn Chinese, Shanshan's Chinese, but also I think like there's some interesting kind of, like we don't get to see. I like in my case, I don't get to see as much foreign films as I hope to see. So this is really nice. I feel like this comes at a time when I was trying to learn. I was trying to find content in Chinese to watch as a way to learn. So I felt like this was a really good one.
What's
And yeah,
one
it's
or
really,
two episodes that you might start off with
um,
that you really
this one
enjoy?
was the first one I saw, Chinese animation, which is interesting about how, because Chinese animation was actually really really good and like very avant-garde in the very early days of it, of when it started to happen, but then kind of was quickly overtaken by Western media and also things like the culture, how the Cultural Revolution affected the perception of animation in China, and how it's slowly turning from a country just to make who makes the animation for like The Simpsons or like just as a outsourcing studio to being able to rediscover its own kind of and reincorporate its own Chinese identity into this kind of medium. So
Mm.
this is a good one, I think. There's also a lot of Bruce Lee stuff, which is not a lot, but like a couple, like Ip Man 4 and like talking about Jackie Chan, and like if you like martial arts movies, I think it's a kind of nice. Um, on the
Oh, that's
same thread,
awesome.
or
That's
on the
yeah,
same,
I haven't seen that one before. I'll check it out.
yeah, I don't know if you like Bruce Lee that much. Maybe you
Oh,
do.
Bruce Lee, man, he's he's one of my all-time favorite quotes is ah the one
You like
about
water,
what
the
about
water one.
removing things and adding things that what is the quote?
Be like water.
Let's go with that. All right, what's the next one?
um, this one's interesting because I only found this one, and I still haven't watched much of it, but it's kind of again, it's like in the same thread. It's like in because I wanted to learn more Chinese. But this is interesting because this seems to cover a lot of like youth topics and like the story. Because I think the maybe the stereotype of China sometimes from people is that it's a scary place or maybe people are brainwashed, and I think maybe there is a grain of truth in some of that. But I think this is interesting because you see like I guess experiences of Chinese people, young people, or people who are working in China.
Mm.
So like this is a person like a Russian person who went to university in China and ended up working in like like how China has this huge wholesale kind of trade ecosystem, and like she ended up like working in like one of those like, massive like companies doing that. And what is her life like? And you know, like a a Chinese person like working in South Korea selling like reselling or like doing host like selling like live streaming South Korean products to Chinese customers and like selling them online. And like, this is really interesting to kind of see a totally different perspective and also learn Chinese along the way. So that's yeah. Anyway, I can't read any of it though, so that's the problem. So
It's
Shashan has to help me.
yeah, it's so interesting that this is such a um how should I say, this wouldn't exist without YouTube or
Yeah,
platform like YouTube, you know.
yeah.
I found this reminds me of a guitar channel that I found recently, Troy Grady. And this guy, Troy Grady, basically breaks down how to play guitar really fast, but he spent a lot of hours producing those videos. If you play one of those videos, no, if you go down, yeah, if you
Oh, what's
basically
this?
the production quality is really good. It feels like this one person is making what would be a worthy TV production in
Hmm.
2007.
Yeah.
You know, with graphics, with transitions, with and again, like this is such a. Have you heard of the concept of the long tail?
Nah.
It's a concept that I've been learning about from one of the lecturers at uni, Gabby. Hopefully, she'll be on the podcast soon as well. But it's you know that there's always the popular kind of TV shows, music, products, things like that account for 80% of not 80%, but which sell disproportionately more, which are viewed disproportionately more than the fringe subjects, right?
Oh, right. Is this the one where like most of the views or like most of it's like just a few of them and then there's this super long tail of everything else as it stretches out?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. That's the one. So if I draw a graph, um, no, yeah,
Annotate, man. Just annotate.
how? Is there a button? There's no annotate, is there?
Yeah, it's if you it's on the menu. Like pause, like new share, pause share, annotate, remote control.
Oh, annotate. Yeah, that's the one. You drew it. That's that's the one. It's like
I didn't do a good
that.
job.
That's all the pop stuff,
Yeah.
all the stuff that um, the media creators of that would focus on, because that's where the money is, right? And if they developed specific content for something down here, it wouldn't really make much money
Yeah.
as like a big company. But actually this tail goes really long, and the area that's the market size area here, right, actually is comparable to this long tail area.
Yeah.
And because of platforms like YouTube, innovations like the internet, and things like this, we have creators like this guy and the other YouTube channels that you were showing us before, that I think can exist and can actually survive. And I think that's just really cool to see.
This reminds me of a podcast. on the topic of content. I think it's called Down the Rabbit Hole. You know about it?
No.
Shashan recommended it to me. I heard a few episodes, but it's basically about. No, it's not this one. Maybe it's that one. It's this one. Rabbit Hole. It's about. It's basically about. Um, at least from what we've listened so far about YouTube and how, like the impacts of the algorithm it has on people, or like how story of like people who might go into a destructive content loop because they start getting stuck in a bubble, and how that changes their perception of things. It's a really short series. I think you definitely recommend it if you're interested in that stuff, or if anyone else is interested in that stuff, I guess. But do you think though, like YouTube at this scale is really a net, like it surely is beneficial to a lot of people. It gives people a platform, but do you feel like it also simultaneously, I don't know, buries a lot of content? Like for me, I certainly feel like, I don't know, like for me, there's a part of me that thinks I'm seeing all this great content now, but what else is out there? Like what else am I missing? Yeah, I still haven't yet to see, because either YouTube doesn't show it to me, or it's just impossible to find just because of the sheer volume, right? Like, what if I could replace all the shitty random clickbaity videos and like random like nonsense videos with more of those videos? I guess, like, but also like imagine like coming into YouTube fresh,
Mm.
and like you pick, like, where do you start? Like, how do you find all that content? Like what do you do if you, yeah, I don't know, like, are you willing to trust the algorithm to just give you the right content? It's like, you like 2-minute papers, like that's that. But why did it take you so long to get to it? Like it's like it's interesting, because I wonder if like this how this problem might be tackled at the rate of how much content is being uploaded to YouTube. It's probably non-trivial.
Mm. I mean, I see both sides, right? I see both sides, as in my automatic perspective is like glass is half full one, where if this didn't exist at all, then I wouldn't even know about the things that I already know about.
I see.
But there is definitely a problem. Like, often if I'm searching for new YouTube videos as precedents or something specific, like how steel wire is made or something that I need to know, I would go onto Safari. I would go onto like, the incognito kind of modes, so that it doesn't affect my YouTube algorithm.
Really?
Yeah. No, for me it's like gardening. Like every fortnight I scroll through my feed, and I kind of meticulously go not interested on all the videos that I'm not interested in. And so to try and delete, to try and get it to recommend me more things that I would be interested in. But again, that kind of falls into the trap of it becomes very predictable what it's going to recommend me. But at the same time, if you go on YouTube on incognito mode, then you're seeing what someone might see when they come to YouTube
Which is
fresh.
so different. Like it's like nothing of anything there is like, I feel like it's just trash. Well, not trash, but sometimes.
I agree with you, man. It's trash in that. Look. The most trash video in the right context can be a learning tool, right? It's like one of the design students. One of the first questions ever asked at the new design school was, there's going to be PS3s, PlayStations and Xboxes, PS4s now, 5's coming out. Oh, that's what I want to talk to you about, but later. They're like, oh, we see PlayStations. Can we play it for entertainment purposes on campus? Can we play the PlayStation for entertainment purposes at uni, right? And the answer was actually like, yeah, but just be critical about it when you're playing it. Obviously, the students who are using it for development work have precedence, but yeah, go for it. Like the answer was basically go for it, because when you're consuming, that's the kind of experiences that you want to make, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with the trashness comment, and that those are the videos that most effectively are able to be like this black hole for people's attention.
Yeah.
You know, like if mindlessly you could go on there with zero agenda, right? And you'd click on these videos and it will gladly eat up your time and attention.
Yeah.
And most likely you're not going to complain, and you can just, go into one of these thoughtless YouTube journeys. And in that way, I think, yeah, that's kind of the trashiness for me. It's that, like, these are the content that's available right now that do that in the most effective way.
In the podcast I mentioned just before, they actually did an interview. They have a couple episodes maybe. I heard one of the guy who actually built the current YouTube algorithm.
Oh wow.
The guy who actually, and like initially he felt like it was great because people would actually get things they were interested in. But then the realization became that it created this situation where you were kind of just getting content that was too good. Like, in the sense that you would always just want to keep watching and watching and watching and watching. And he actually built a version of the algorithm to defeat this, like whose job it was to get you out of that bubble. And Google canned it. He kind of and then he left, basically. Like, and I think this is, I don't know, I feel, to be honest, that I think YouTube is not going to last in the long term. I think I'm going to make a prediction. YouTube's going to be dead by the time before we die. It's going to be dead before we die. I don't know how long that would be, but I definitely see, like, for me, I don't know, I'm the glass half empty guy, right? I see a problem with, the fact that, as you said, that there's this long tail and only a few people get it. I see a problem with how people who might want to share something or have something to share, like maybe, like in your case, you're having a podcast to share something. Like for me to share stuff, I don't feel like there is that capacity on YouTube to do that. I feel like there's all these challenges with people getting demonetized and people struggling to earn a living on the YouTube platform, and that is a problem. And I don't know if YouTube has the solution. I feel like it's such an old system. It's kind of locked in its particular ways. I think like it's ripe for some disruption, in my opinion. I think that could be a chance.
Whoa, bold.
I think so, though, right? Don't you think? Like,
yeah, within our lifetimes, that's
a long
a long time. That's a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I think so.
Another one of our friends, Fabio, he's a lecturer in the School of Music.
Yeah.
He was telling me and Krish about how Spotify he has a very similar problem that you're talking about regarding YouTube, but about Spotify, and how at the end of the day, it's a commercial entity and it has private investors, which means that like it's gonna promote certain musicians, certain kind of with certain record companies, whatever it might be, more than independent ones, and therefore have a similar kind of problem. Like, what do you think if there was something that would disrupt, what would be something that they would have to get right to not have these problems? What might be some features of that thing that might come after, in your opinion?
It's funny because I feel like the same people who, like, I think YouTube is actually the best person to solve these problems. Like Google's, I think, like, I think like the challenge of big data is the most pressing one. Like the volume of content you have, and finding ways to curate that. Like it's physically impossible to curate, right? Like, so you either accept that you have a large volume of videos and you develop better algorithms to curate, or which is what kind of YouTube is kind of doing. Your recommendations drive an algorithm to recommend stuff back to you, but or you change the way it's like don't allow everyone to upload a video, and be more like a Reddit, where like the content is anyone can upload stuff, but oftentimes it's up to the community to kind of self curate and self organize themselves. And for me at least, I feel like that's a healthier way to do it. Like I'm not interested, because like when you go on Spotify, or like I don't use Spotify, I use YouTube Music, sorry. Like for me, one thing I enjoy about something like that is that there are albums and you click on it and it's like jazz, like essential jazz, or easygoing jazz or whatever, and it just shows you the things, right? It doesn't mean that I only want to listen to jazz, all right? And frankly, I don't know enough about jazz, and so I want to learn more about it, right? And I'm sure I know like YouTube does have like playlists where it's like tech or whatever, right? But like I think fundamentally, I feel like that needs to start. I feel like that's the part where I think it needs to be. I guess it needs to start from like, at least from my perspective. Like if you look at what's great about YouTube is that it's about building communities, and like people do really like to watch and support people that they like. And I feel like with Patreon and Nebula and all these other sites that are kind of being started up, they're kind of in a direct response to YouTube not having enough of those features. And I wouldn't say it's YouTube's fault, but it's like kind of a legacy problem. YouTube was never meant to be a community platform. It wasn't a creator first kind of centric kind of model. It was always about initially just a place to upload videos and share videos, right? And that's it, right? And so like I think whoever's going to disrupt it, I think if they started from there, like for me, that would be what would be important for me. Like I would leave YouTube in an instant if I go to a site and it was like very community centric, and instead of me finding YouTube videos on how to make metal wires, like I would just find a community that knows about this information, and then from there you see what they've built, what knowledge base they've built, what information they've gathered, and be able to learn and share from each other. Because I think for me, I use YouTube a lot to learn and understand from other people. I don't use it so much, and like for news maybe. So like for me, that's really important. I don't use it for entertainment so much. And so for me, having that is important, that kind of exchange of being able to interact as a community. Not as like comments and stuff, like something more substantial.
I don't use it for entertainment too much.
No, I do, but like
40 hours a week.
I do use it for entertainment heaps, but like often I'm trying to understand something. I use YouTube as a way to understand something, which is probably bad because maybe I should just read more instead of watch more.
No, legit though. So I'm teaching a paper called "The Future of Work and Play."
Yeah.
Next semester.
Nice.
And my biggest premise is that is basically that those two things, work and play, the line between it is becoming blurred, right? So again, for you just then, when you're talking about your YouTube kind of input that you get from YouTube, I'm sure a lot of it is both like stimulating for you intellectually, progressing like in a direction that could be useful to what you do, but also counts as entertainment. It's not boring, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right.
But dude, like we've been talking for 2 hours, man.
Oh really?
I could do this all. Like I had 5 questions that I want to ask you. I asked you one.
Oh really? Sorry. What questions?
It means no. It was even better than the questions that I had to ask you. Did you have anything that you want to ask me, or any topic that you want to bring onto the table?
I wanted to ask you if you watched Kingdom.
Eh?
I wanted to ask you if you watched Kingdom on Netflix.
No. Oh wait, that's a zombie one.
Yeah,
Yes, I have. I've watched half of the first season.
half of the first season.
Yeah.
I just finished season 1.
Yeah. Is it worth finishing?
I like it. I'm quite biased though. I do like these types of genres. Like, yeah, so I don't know. It depends on, yeah. So I'm pretty loose and easy when it comes to stuff like that. I like kind of survivor type stories. So yeah, but I say it's pretty good. I say it's pretty good. It's
Oh,
also nice for me because I'm watching. It's nice to watch a Korean production.
yeah.
I think it's kind of nice.
Can, can I ask you about your opinion on one more thing?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then can I recommend you another series because we didn't finish the. I don't think we finished
Oh yeah,
Conquest.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Let's do that first. Do that
okay,
first.
it's a great Netflix series that I really enjoyed, but it's called Into the Night. I think you would enjoy it. It's called Into the Night. I think it's a Belgian, or it's a French Belgian co-production.
Into
But
the
basically,
night.
yeah, Into the Night. It's a crazy premise, but I think that's why you like it. It's like it follows a bunch of people who are on a plane, who are about to board a plane, and what happens is like suddenly out of nowhere the sun starts acting crazy and killing people, like killing people when the sun is, so basically once the sun rises people start dying mysteriously and they don't know why. So it follows the story of a bunch of people who were on a plane that just took off as the sun was rising, and so they have to keep, in order to survive, they have to keep flying. Is it west, like in direction away from the sun, always staying into the night, like, and like while trying to find a safe place to land, food and supplies, and like figuring out what the hell is going on. Yeah,
What do you like about it? Is it the premise? Is it
the premise is cool and it's not crazy. It's not like some random premise. Like there's actually some science. When I first watched it, I was like, what the hell is going on? It's such a stupid idea. But then like there is some like logic behind it, which is great. Like it's not like random. It's not fantastical. And I also think like it's it has a lot of a lot of good character development. Again, like for me, I like this survivor type genre. So for me, I guess also it's kind of interesting, just to watch it to see what happens. But I also enjoyed that because it's a European cast that everyone's speaking different languages and they come from different backgrounds, and the show kind of dissects that a little bit. They talk about, and it's almost like a little microcosm of the current European kind of ecosystem, and maybe the differences and prejudices against the different nations, nationalities. So it's kind of really interesting to watch it, especially since like I haven't been back to Europe in such a long time. So it's kind of nice to immerse myself in that again. Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry,
really short.
I've
Six
never
six
heard that.
episodes. Six
I've never heard
episodes.
of that before. Nobody has ever recommended.
It's
I've
really new.
never.
It's really new.
All
Six
right,
episodes, 30 minutes each.
I'm in. I'm in. I'm in. It's good because I just finished a 3 week long journey. I've been obsessed with. Uh, I first got obsessed with webtoons at the beginning of COVID.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we talked
And-
about this, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, and then I went into web novels.
Yes, you told me
Then
this one too. Yeah.
and then when you spend more time in a certain area of art, you develop taste, right? You develop
Yeah,
refined
yeah,
taste.
yeah,
You
yeah.
can start to tell which is like the cheap eats, fast food, junk food style, and which is the masterpieces, right?
Okay, okay.
And yeah, I stumbled upon this one called White Wolves, and it was like a
Web
16
two? A
volume.
web novel.
Yeah, it's not yet translated, but so you won't be able to find it. There's very little information on it. I think there's only like 16 chapters out or something. And man, I just couldn't stop. It was like Lord of the Rings level engagement from me. And anyways, what were we? How did we get here? How did we get here? I don't know.
Content stuff. You were gonna
I don't
ask me a
know.
question, and I said like, "Oh, can I recommend you one more thing?" And then you're like,
Yeah. So thank you. It's good timing. It's good timing. I need to. There was a void that was created by the end of this good content. You won't be able to find it, man. I'll let you know when it comes out in English, because it's one of those where I think you just have to read it multiple times because
"Oh,
it's
really?
yeah. Um,
You find that your Korean's improved significantly?
uh
Get good enough."
this is a weird thing because my sister, Hannah can read French. She's read novels in French,
Can Hannah
right?
speak French?
No, she can only read French.
Oh, really? Is that possible?
I don't know. So this is what she tells me. She says, like she's literally read, like, that's a book that she's read.
That, yeah.
It's like a heavy book. It just looks. You get what I'm saying?
Clearly, Hans is not as smart as Hannah.
No, no, definitely not. And I don't know. Maybe she just has patience. She just looks like she's
Like
reading
Google
all the
Translate
time.
everywhere.
Um, but yeah, she says she can understand bits of conversation, but she can't really speak it. So I'm not sure if the two things are as related as you might think.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
good point. Yeah.
but yeah, dude. I want to put the PlayStation 5 demo, which I'm sure you've seen.
What? Which one? Oh, the Unreal Engine 5 demo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering if you could.
Well, my camera froze again.
It's okay. I was wondering if you could comment on it
What do you
to
mean?
kind of
Like, what do
let
you
us
want to
know
know
the
about?
detail that you noticed that I might not notice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's not a lot that's been known about. Like, a lot of us don't like, because even if like a lot of our researchers were like, "Oh, what are they doing? I don't even know." Because we are working on not the same similar tech, but we operating in similar research areas, and that we don't know what is going on here as well. I mean,
What do
there's
you mean you
some
don't know what's going on?
I mean, like we don't know how it's done. I guess like some of it we know. Some of it, like, well,
Like,
actually, that's not true.
so I want to know what's impressive to you. What are the details that I'm not appreciating because I don't know how much effort that has gone. What are the breakthroughs here that impresses someone like you who from like first year design was thinking about ambient occlusion?
Yeah, I mean, like we've certainly gone. I mean, we've certainly gone a very, very like leaps and bounds like in the last 5 years, like like crazy amounts. Like even in 2015, a lot of the things that we're talking about now have been unimaginable, right?
So
Not
can I just
unimaginable,
play
like
this trailer and you tell me to pause, right?
sure.
And
There's
kind
not
of
much though. There's
tell
not
me
much
what you
in there.
notice. I don't know. I'm just curious. Just talk through it if you would.
I don't think I've seen this one. I saw the
It's
other one,
You've seen the
but yeah,
long version.
the longer version.
This is a 2-minute version.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I mean, like the virtualized geometry stuff is really interesting, right? I think for me, this is the more exciting thing because when you talk about, in the business context, when we talk about games, right? The trend is that in the old days, games used to be mostly programmers and like one person does the art, or maybe like the programmer does the art. Like this is like in the 80s or 90s or whatever, right? Because it was way harder to get stuff running, so there were lots of developers building stuff, right? But that trend is inverse now, right? So you might have a team of like 30 developers, 50 developers, but you might have a team of hundreds of artists because the cost of making the content, especially when the quality is so high, is that it's just difficult. It just takes time, and there's no way to really effectively do that, right? And so if we talk to anyone who's in the I guess the games development sphere, this is one of the challenges. And so in this case, what this virtualized, I don't know what they call it, like virtualized triangles or virtualized meshes models, really what enables you is that you can directly import an asset that an artist is making directly into the game without any optimizations. And it doesn't sound like a big step, like, oh, what's the difference? But the thing is, I know you know this already probably, which is that it actually takes a lot of effort. A big part of one of the biggest, it's a big step in the game production pipeline is an artist spends nice, modeling something, sculpting something, and then they have to optimize it, crunch it down into a format that's optimized for the game to run in real time. And they have to do this for everything they make, right? And so it's a time-consuming step. It's also a really tedious step because to some extent while there are automated solutions and algorithms to do this for you, it is still, to be honest, a very manual process. The artist needs to be involved in it. And so that kind of totally bypasses that entire step. I can just drag a highly detailed model into the engine and just be done with it.
And how are they doing this? How do they do this?
It's not clear because like one speculation is that it's related specifically to PlayStation's hardware, because apparently one of the things that PlayStation has been touting is that it has some kind of optimized, I don't know what the word is to use, but like optimized pipeline or bus for transferring data from the SSD so that it's extremely fast. So like that's one thing, that it could be that these models, one of these models alone could be hundreds and hundreds of megabytes. So one thing is that you can look, because of maybe Sony's work on the PlayStation's new SSD technology or SSD loading speeds, that you can load all this information instantly, really quickly. That's one thing. The second thing is there's some some technique that I don't know what it is. Like that Unreal Engine is using to dynamically optimize the models in real time. So like, because what it's doing is that it's basically optimizing the mesh as you move in and out, like depending on how close or far that model is, right? So like if you're really close, it's going to give you a really high resolution mesh, but if it's really far away, it's going to simplify it. And games have been doing that in the past already. But what's not clear is that the way that Unreal Engine is doing it seems to be like somehow more advanced and I guess more like faster, like more real time and like more granular in detail. So it's not clear what they're doing. The lighting is also really nice. It's really, I did see some discussion about what it is, but yeah. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Yeah. For me, the two things that are the things, yeah. So it's really impressive. Like it is a subtle difference. I think we're kind of we expect these days for games to look really good. So I think if you just look at it, maybe it's not very straightforward or clear, like what is different from this than like a current gen game that's running right now. Because I think fundamentally a lot of the changes are exciting to game developers, game artists, more so than a gamer. Like, I don't think a gamer would care so much. I don't think they would care that much about how high resolution like a model is. Like the game graphics wars is such an old thing. Like people don't like that. We already reached a level of fidelity where a lot of people are, don't care about graphics that much anymore. They talk about gameplay, they talk about interactivity, they talk about the narrative, they talk about the story, whatever. But for game developers, this is significant because it allows them to build games faster, to test earlier, to have, I guess, like smaller teams. I think about the benefits this might be for a large company who's able to have smaller teams to work on bigger projects, but also to allow them to test faster, to get feedback earlier. Um, that's great. Like being able to build a game more quickly is beneficial not just for the development cycle, but also for getting artists, getting people's feedback. But also think about like indie teams,
Mm.
like about one person. Already now game engines are so easy to use that one person can build an entire game, like a triple A quality game, quote unquote. It's like this just merely enhances that. But also like I think it's also a recognition that like game engines are moving away from just games. Like if you look at Unreal Engine's webpage, it's not just about games. It's about architecture and
Mm.
simulation, about training. It's about um, you know like design tools. Like uh, so, I think that's the other thing. Like being able to, for example, import a super high resolution CAD model of the Mars rover into
Mm.
a game engine and be able to interactively collaborate or inspect the model or make animations in it without having to wait for render times. That's also significant. Like using it as a and so I think a lot of that's kind of going. Like I think that's this is the kind of I guess you could see that I guess the initial stage of that next wave of
Mm.
like technology. Like this is the groundwork almost. Sorry, that's a long rant.
Wow. Uh, thanks so much. Like just hearing that from you, for me, it's exactly as you said. It's like, wow, this looks like a movie. This looks like CG. A lot of it. Um, in fact, the character is the most unrealistic thing in the scene.
Yeah,
Um, but what you're saying is that potentially the technological advancements here are going to sm- let smaller groups of people go further faster in creating such works, such experiences, and
yeah,
opens up the opportunity for not just video games. It started with video games, but potentially, as you said, architecture, um, but probably a lot more people as well, like real estate somehow, and design, of course, um, for to be able to access what previously would have taken a lot more time, energy, and resource. Um, and that's an insight that I didn't get from seeing that trailer the first time.
yeah,
So thank you for opening my eyes to those insights.
yeah. To be honest, it's. I mean, I think it's already happening now. It's not. We don't have to wait. I think this is like PlayStation 5 is coming out the end of next year, maybe.
End
But
of
like
next year.
maybe I think so. It's like either next year or end of next year or something. But like yeah, I mean this is already happening, right? Like this stuff is already happening. Like and it's crazy because we grew up in a time when like uh I don't know if you remember still like it was so hard to do anything. Like there wasn't like there wasn't like I don't know Blender or I don't know like even like something like Creative Cloud and all the tools they have. Like we didn't have that in the old days. Like we had Paint and like PowerPoint, maybe some shit like that. Like
Does this
yeah,
kind of, I remember when we were flying together, and you were teaching me a thing or two about 3D modeling. There was a element of craft in your modeling, and I felt like you took pride in being able to make very efficient 3D models. Like two models can look the same in a render or whatever, but I feel like one of the lessons that it's like clean code, where you don't they're down to the level of faces and vertices. It's more or less optimized, because when you put it in the final environment, it will take much less space, because it's
yeah,
be modeled in such a way. It seems like some of this is might take away from the need for that kind of craft.
yeah. I agree, and I think like it's this kind of layer of abstraction, right? Like no one I don't know, like like it's the same with like I think any type of field, like in chemistry, like no one is gonna like make all their I don't know what the word is, like chemicals, like they're not gonna make and source their chemicals themselves. They're
Mm,
just gonna buy it and then just get it and make the thing they need. Or like no one's
mm,
gonna make all the tools they have for scratch. Like you don't need to do that anymore. And I think like computer graphics is one of those where like you know being precise in the polygons and the topology and that stuff like was necessary. I mean, like it was necessary because you just had to. There wasn't a choice to, like, and I think it also made it harder for people to just do the work they need to do. They can't just, express themselves. And I think that's yeah. You may lose. You could argue that maybe you're losing some of that. I don't know, craftsman type thing, but I don't know. Maybe not. Like I feel like you kind of refocus your efforts on some other thing,
mm.
some other higher level, more important thing. Yeah.
Ian, thanks so much. I think that's a wrap.
Thanks, Hans. Uh, I hope I don't get to hear this podcast if it ever happens.
Dude, every time I talk to you, I have a great time.
Every
Every
time I talk to you, I feel like I'm just rambling.
well, you know what they say: one man's rubbish is another man's treasure. Um,
It's always nice to talk to you, Hans. Yeah, I'm glad we caught up today.